Hello and welcome to a new video. It's been a while since I've done one of these discography deep dives, but with the recent sad news that Christine McVie has sadly passed away just yesterday at the making of this video, I thought it was high time that I looked back over the incredible career of one of Britain and America's most interesting bands, and certainly long-lasting and dramatic of bands, Fleetwood Mac. So I hope you can join me for a look back over 17 studio albums, and I'm going to have a go at the unenviable task of trying to rank them. No other band has embraced stylistic or personnel changes quite like Fleetwood Mac. From starting out as a blues revival band with the enigmatic Peter Green at the helm, through to radio-friendly songs of heartbreak and romantic drama on iconic albums like Rumours, this band's evolution is one of the most fascinating in all of rock history. So it's high time I took a deep dive into all of their studio albums and tried to put them into some sort of order of how much I personally enjoyed them. Of course, like all of these lists, this is completely subjective, and no doubt your list will be completely different to this. So do let me know in the comments below how you would rank the Fleetwood Mac albums. And we start off in 1968 with the debut album, the first of two albums to share the same name, Fleetwood Mac. Growing out of the John Mayall and the Blues Breakers band, this is essentially a jam band emulating their heroes and yet to really find their own voice. What they are doing, however, is damn good. And with the odd cringe-worthy Howling Wolf impression, it sounds remarkably realistic for a group of lads from London. I've never been fully sold on the British blues imitators as I am with the original American version, but frontman Peter Green is one of the few who can pull off sounding of authenticity and feeling of the blues. His playing is just so emotional, so soulful, so sexual, not in the usual teenage rutting rock and roll kind of way, but in a sensual, smooth and seductive way. And you can tell that he really means every note that he plays here. My favourite track on this first album would be I Loved Another Woman, and I would give it 3 out of 5 stars, which places it right in the middle here with B. Next up, coming out in the same year, we have Mr. Wonderful. The guitar work is sumptuous and the melancholic horns are a welcome addition, but it's essentially a covers band doing impressions of blues legends, albeit a good one. My favourite track would be Rolling Man, and I gave this 2 out of 5 stars, so it goes down here in C. Then Play On, 1969. Mac take their first steps out of the blues rock beginnings to new styles and ideas, exploring acoustic and psychedelic territories whilst retaining their bluesy hue. This is helped in no small way by the addition of the wonderful guitarist and songwriter Danny Kirwan. It's not all brilliant, with rather rudimentary lyrics on songs like Coming Your Way and When You Say, but there is a self-assuredness and originality that sets them apart on Then Play On. My favourite track would be Closing My Eyes, and I've given it 3 out of 5. I'm going to put it slightly above the debut. Into the 70s with Kiln House next, 1970. Fleetwood Mac start off what would be their most popular decade with a bizarre mixture of rock and roll pastiches and proto-Rumours harmonic soft rock. I get the feeling that this was more fun to make than it is to listen to. I miss Peter Green, who's left at this point, and I really wasn't feeling this one. Weirdly cynical and insincere sounding, as if it's mocking the audience. My favourite track is Earl Grey. If they put lyrics to this one, I reckon it would have definitely been a hit. But it only gets 2 stars, which puts it down here. And I'm going to put it slightly above 1. 1971's Future Games is next. The band shift gear again on this hippie light combination of folk rock and AOR. Thoroughly pleasant to listen to, but didn't overly grab me. And my favourite track is Future Games. That gets a 2 as well, so that will come in here. Where do I put it? I'm going to put it slightly above Kiln House. Bare Trees in 1972. The only thing that comes to mind with this one is A Poor Man's Eagles. It has its moments, but I was surprised at how bland it was when looking at that dark, ethereal cover. My favourite track on it is Sentimental Lady. And it also gets to, the albums are going to start ranking a lot higher than this, I promise you. I'm going to put Penguin, I'm going to put Bare Trees about there. Penguin, 1973. And this is where the score goes up a little bit. Fleetwood Mac really start to cultivate the sound and feeling of what would become their most famous era on Penguin, primed for the catalyst of Lindsay and Buckingham. Christine McVie really comes to the fore, and although it's not a patch on the holy trinity of Fleetwood Mac, Rumours and Tusk, it's a pleasant radio-friendly experience that Mac fans will like. One of the best of the bridge albums between the bluesy beginnings and the huge success years. And my favourite track on there is Revelation, and it gets 3 points, 3 stars even. My favourite so far, in fact. Mystery to Me, 1973. The ascent towards rock pop legend status continues on this great sounding album. West Coast CSNY harmonies, lush, interesting guitar and catchy songs. I really enjoyed this one, and my favourite track is Hypnotized, and this gets a 4-star review. Bit of an underrated that one. Heroes Are Hard to Find from 1974. And yeah, the most worrying thing about this is the cover art, which is very strange indeed. Anyway, Heroes Are Hard to Find reintroduces a more soulful, bluesy sound that works well. It doesn't always land its ideas, and the best is still around the corner, but it is definitely a fun listen. And my favourite track would be Come a Little Closer. It's my favourite of the 3-star so far. Then another album by the name of Fleetwood Mac comes out in 1975. After years of interesting but inconsistent albums and lineups since Peter Green, Fleetwood Mac finally strike gold with the discovery and inclusion of Lindsay and Buckingham, a duo of singer-songwriters who set off their next classic era with the second eponymous album. Whilst overshadowed by the commercial behemoth of Rumours and lacking the emotional grit of that album, Fleetwood Mac is essential listening with memorable songs aplenty, and my favourite track from that album is Over My Head, and that is definitely a 5-star album. The next 5-star album, can you guess which one it is? Rumours, 1977. What could I possibly say about Rumours that hasn't been said 1,000 times before? The 1977 album manages that most rare of things, a simultaneous artistic and commercial peak. This is made even more surprising when you consider the difficult circumstances that they were facing at the time. The band were falling apart, troubled by relationship breakdowns and drug issues, yet they managed to channel their personal issues and difficult feelings towards each other into brutally honest and direct lyrics. The best description I've heard about the feeling of Rumours is that it's essentially a soap opera set to music, and you've got to admire the way that each band member was not only able to keep the chain together, but contribute to each other's musical rebuttals. The strength of the band is clearly worth more than its individual members, and the resulting album is the band's most timeless musical pinnacle, for good reason. Favourite track is probably Go Your Own Way, but it could be pretty much any track on the album, and that is, of course, In the Lead. Tusk was next, 1979 double album. How do you follow a cultural phenomenon like Rumours? The safe but boring option would be to try and make a Rumours Part 2. Yet, would this just fulfill the law of diminishing returns, as in the case of Bowie's follow-up to Let's Dance, the rather underwhelming Tonight? Happily, Fleetwood Mac decide on Tusk to branch off in a very different direction, weaving in elements of new wave and alternative rock to the Rumours sound on a breathtaking run of 20 brilliant songs. Of course, this would be seen by many as commercial suicide, but then nothing could really match the heights of Rumours. So I, for one, am glad that they didn't try to and went for their own musical interests and evolutions instead. It took me a while to appreciate Lindsay Nick's era Fleetwood Mac. Growing up, their tunes were everywhere and often felt like more like part of the wallpaper. I can totally understand why people with heavy rock leanings wouldn't like the band, as their music can be very easygoing sounding on first listen. But I've grown to love and appreciate this era over the years and the phenomenal albums of Rumours and Tusk for totally different reasons. If you scratch the surface of the radio-friendly sheen, the emotions and intentions of this band are always authentic, and they never rest on their laurels or play it easy. This is best illustrated here on Tusk, which sees them pushing themselves out of their respective comfort zones a lot, and this is anything but a cash-in on the huge success of that album. It's testimony to a band firing on all cylinders that they managed to create a double album with 20 songs, and yet only 1 in 20 I don't love, which is weirdly enough the title track, which I found to be a bit too melodically sparse for my liking. An album that won't grab you as immediately as Rumours, but will reward you over and over the more you delve into its wonderful mysteries. And my favourite track on Tusk is That's All for Everyone, and it's very much a 5-star album. Now, where do I put it in this holy trinity? I'm going to put it there. Second place, I think, so far. Mirage, 1984. 5 years after the super experimental Tusk, the band are back in simpler, pop-tastic territory on 1984's Mirage. Whilst less entertaining from a creative point of view, Mirage proves the band has lost none of their melodic mastery, and this is a fun and very singable album. My favourite track is Can't Go Back, and I would give it 3 stars, but it's a very high 3. I'm going to put it there, I think. Tango in the Night next, 1987. Most bands are lucky to get 1 commercial peak, but on Tango in the Night, Fleetwood Mac managed their 3rd. 10 years since Rumours and nearly 20 years since their inception. This is in no small part to barnstorming singles like Big Love, Everywhere and Little Lies, all of which would propel them back up the charts. But does the rest of the album match up to the singles? It's a strong collection of 80s pop, but this is an album where the singles are the main highlight for me, and it would probably score lower without them. The band continued to evolve into more electronic territory, but don't forget their strengths, such as the wonderfully unique but complementary 3 vocal parts of Stevie, Lindsay and Christy on songs like Little Lies. It's a 4-star album for me, and my favourite track is that track, Little Lies, and it goes there. I'm going to swap those 2 around, actually. Behind the Mask, 1990. The band enter the 90s in rocky form with one of their principal singer-songwriters and driving forces, Lindsey Buckingham, leaving to work on his solo career. And boy, does it show on this lackluster offering. It's certainly not terrible, but it sounds tentative, without focus, and dangerously old hat with the experiment and excitement of grunge just around the corner. It's only a 1-star for me, and my favourite track is Sky's the Limit. So far it's coming in as the worst album. Time, 1995. If I was to say Christian rock to you, what sound would you think of? Take that, sprinkle on some Vanilla Flakes and process the hell out of it, and you have the mind-numbingly bland sound of 1995's Time. It's just about listenable, but definitely skippable, and a real waste of such talented musicians. My favourite track is Talking to My Heart, and unfortunately it is my least favourite of the Fleetwood Mac albums. And finally, 2003, we have Say You Will. Lindsay does return in this one, and the whole of the band have rediscovered some of their bite, but some of the same problems still remain. You've got one of the best guitarists and drummers in rock history, and you process them to the point where they sound like you're playing them on a keyboard. That's my problem that I have with this album. There are glimpses of magic, however, and you've got to admire a band who keeps evolving and trying new sounds 35 years into their development. Say You Will is leagues above its predecessor, but it's still not quite classic Mac. And my favourite track would be Miranda. That gets 3 stars, but it's a low 3 stars. I'm going to put it there. I hope you enjoyed that quick look through a very interesting and diverse back catalogue. I hope it encourages you to dust off an old favourite or discover something new from this iconic band. Thanks as always for watching. Let me know in the comments below if there's any other bands that you'd like me to do a tier list on. And as always, thanks for watching and take care.